Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ebony and this is where I like to talk about all the spooky horror and thriller books that I like to read. And today I'm coming at you with a recommendations video. I'm going to go through 10 horror and thriller books that got me out of a reading slump because, man, I've been through it this year. But I was looking back into my reading log of over the years, and these are ones that really stood out to me that I thought might help other people if they're experiencing one of those dreaded reading slumps and they need something quick that they can smash out in one sitting, because that's what I did with every single one of these books. So let's get straight on into it. I'm going to start off real strong with a slasher because sometimes they are the best to get you reading again because you can finish them super quickly. They're easy page turners. You just want to get the popcorn out while you're reading them. So the first one I read actually back in 2020. So this is an old recommendation. I'm giving you old and new reads. It's fun to talk about the books that I haven't talked about before on this channel. So the first one I'm recommending is Kill Creek by Scott Thomas. This has an excellent premise and it might be really good for spooky season when you get to October because this is set around Halloween. Basically, there's 4 authors, masters of the macabre, who get invited to America's most haunted house. I think it's called the Finch House. And they're basically there for an interview / a glorified publicity stunt. And once they leave the house, the entity, whatever's there, kind of follows them to their everyday lives and brings them back. It's gory, it's dark, there's like history behind it that you get really invested in. The characters are not wholly likable, and so if that doesn't bother you, then you'll enjoy this. I actually initially thought I would really hate all of these characters, especially in their introductions. It's built up so that you will dislike them, but I actually came to love them, you know, as the novel went on. I think that was just brought on by like Scott Thomas's writing prowess. Like that was my favorite thing about reading this novel from what I remember is actually his writing style. It's so addictive. You're hooked from the first couple of pages and you literally, I could not put it down until I finished it and figured out what the hell happened. And there are some real fantastic homages paid to classic horror, gothic horror, literature, films, and it doesn't feel cliched or recycled in any way. It's very deftly done. I think he's great. I remember just loving his writing and I thoroughly enjoyed the direction it took. It's real bloodthirsty and gory. That's what you want from a slasher, and the build up to the finale, it gets under your skin. And like the actual history of the house was quite unsettling. And it just felt like it was full of punches and twists that you won't see coming as well. So you really do get a little bit of everything in this. It keeps you on the edge of your seat and keeps those pages turning. And I remember the ending of this book gave me literal goosebumps. It was so good. So I think I gave this 4.5 stars initially, and that was back in 2020. All the books I'm recommending you today all ranged from 4 to 5 stars. There's nothing below a 4-star rating here on my list because that means they're the ones that can stay and they're the best ones. This one, top contender for one to get you out of a reading slump if you love a slasher horror. A more recent novel that I did read that if you've watched a few of my videos, you might have heard me talk about is Strange Pictures by Yuketsu. And in fact, the whole 3-book series, they're all, you can read them standalone, they will get you out of a slump. I was reading Strange Pictures and I was walking around like this, like I was making my dinner. I read it in about 2 hours, 3 hours, could not put it down. And it was such a satisfying book to read. And you really feel like you're putting the pieces together and you're part of the investigation and the solving of the mystery, you know? I'll tell you very little. This one is basically structured around 9 childlike drawings. Each have kind of an interconnecting storyline. There's something going on that we are trying to piece together, this harrowing story behind each one of them. And it's just super fun, and this translation's so easy to read. You are gonna fly through these pages. Like if you can't read this quickly, then you might be the problem. I'm joking, I'm not blaming you, but this is fantastic. Fun, light, sort of. There's definitely some heavy themes throughout Yuketsu's novels, the 3 of them so far. Definitely some heavy themes, but it's told in a really simple way, a very digestible way for kind of a broad audience without it feeling like he's catering to everybody. If that makes sense, you know what I mean? I don't know. Thoroughly enjoyable. Pick it up if you need to. This is also only 230 pages, and you get all the drawings throughout, which I absolutely love. So, and it adds just like an extra level of creep factor to it, you know, when you're trying to piece it together and you're looking at it, and I was just trying to guess, I was trying to find the clues, and I'm so dumb. I couldn't find half of them, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? And there are the other ones, like strange buildings, strange houses, obviously, which have like floor plans and all sorts of stuff. So it means that like it's just super fast paced because the writing, the font is not small. There are drawings and maps and all sorts of stuff throughout. So yeah, easy one to get you out of a slump. The next one, a bit of a thriller. This one is called The Last One Out by Steph Nelson. I read this on Kindle Unlimited. In Australia, at least, it was still on there. And this is just, it's a kind of a classic thriller. Very fast-paced, great twists and turns that you might not see coming, and just a really satisfying plot line that draws you in from the get-go and makes you want to keep turning the pages. That's the point of this whole video, Ebony. Shut up. It has been quite a while since I read this one, and it didn't necessarily stand out. Like, it's not like some of the other ones I'm going to talk about that are like standout 5-star novels. This one definitely has its place, though, within these recommendations. So let me just quickly read you this. Chloe Webster is supposed to be dead. She vanished 25 years ago the night her 2 friends were brutally murdered at an isolated hot springs. At least that's what everyone believes. Everyone except her cousin Frankie, who never lost hope that Chloe was alive. When Chloe unexpectedly shows up at her own memorial event, Frankie is overjoyed. But this isn't the reunion she imagined. Chloe has no memory of that night in 1999 or her life before. Then Frankie starts getting cryptic messages that imply Chloe knows more than she's letting on. Frankie wants to trust her cousin, but even more, she wants answers to the questions that have plagued her for decades. But is the truth really worth uncovering at any cost? Normally, I don't like reading synopses, but yeah, it's been a little while. Anyway, that brought it all back. That brought it all back nicely for me. I love it when we've also got the 2 alternating point of views and timelines. That's what you get in this one. Obviously, 1999 leading up to the murder of these girls at the hot springs, and then you've got the current, like 20 years later, whatever it is, and Chloe, the survivor, the one survivor in that group of 3, turns back up to her cousin at the memorial. So it is great. It's so good because, yeah, when she does show up at the memorial service, it's kind of this big moment. But then, yeah, things aren't as they seem. As you can imagine in these sorts of thrillers, relationships are really complex, and there's lots of stuff you can find in that. Quite dark. There is a great twist, but it's quite a dark twist. It's a gritty little thriller. Might not be for everyone. It's not like a Frida McFadden. It's not quite, you know what I mean? Like, it's not lighthearted in that sense, but it is still a popcorn thriller and one you can easily smash out in one sitting, 1 or 2 sittings. And yeah, I just love those novels where there's been like a massacre, a murder, and you think all 3 of them have been murdered and then one of them turns back up, but things are a little bit off, especially the fact that Chloe doesn't remember anything about the murder of her 2 friends when she was present. So yeah, there's a lot of like uncovering of secrets, juicy gossip, unreliability between our characters. And yeah, I think that's a really good one. Let me just double check that it is still on Kindle Unlimited. Yes, it is. It's still on Kindle Unlimited. Last One Out by Steph Nelson. Okay, next one is probably, I think it was my best thriller of 2025, and that is In the Deep by Loreth Ann White. Again, her books are all on Kindle Unlimited. She is so underrated. I mean, I don't know if she's underrated, but I still don't hear many people talking about her. I know The Maid's Diary is quite a popular novel of hers, but all the other ones I never really hear anyone discuss. In the Deep, oh, I loved it. I absolutely just gobbled it up. And her writing it's eloquent, but still simple. There's no flowery exposition. There's no bullshit in her novels, but they are quite dark. She's not afraid to go a bit further than some thriller authors, but that you've also often got a bit of like the police procedural element. So it ticks a lot of boxes for me in my thrillers. This is following Ellie. She's had a traumatic death. Her daughter died very traumatically. She's had a divorce, a whole breakdown, basically, early 30s, and she's kind of ready to start her next life, essentially. She needs to rebuild herself, and she meets Martin, who's like this real estate giant. This is in Canada. We've got 2 different settings, which I'll get to because I loved. And yeah, it becomes this whirlwind romance. He helps her through a lot of her grief and her rage and the monsters of her past, and he loves her through it all. And so she sees this opportunity with him, with his real estate ventures, to go move to Australia on a coastal town, and she's ready for kind of a fairy tale ending with him. But behind closed doors, things aren't as they seem, and one thing leads to another, and Martin is dead. And not just dead, it's like a brutal murder, you know, when his body's found. And it kind of seems like Ellie's relieved you know? And so, of course, all eyes are on her. People think she's guilty of something. But then in Australia, we have the detective Loza. Loza, I love it. Lorith knows how we speak. Loza. And I loved her as a detective, an excellent character. I love a strong female detective, a bit older. She's, yeah, balls of steel, this woman. She's looking at the evidence and being like, there's a lot of psychological shit going on here. Like, I don't believe necessarily it was murder, and she's looking at it all, but then she's unraveling this kind of disturbing tale of betrayal and adultery and abuse and all this stuff. But can she trust Ellie and Ellie's point of view and Ellie's testimony for what she's saying happened with Martin? And yeah, it's all about Loza kind of uncovering what the fuck happened between Martin and Ellie. But we also, like I said, we get the alternating point of views between the characters. We also get the places. So we get Canada and Australia. I thought Laura Ann White did a great job representing Australia. I could feel the heat, the water, the plants, like it was very visceral and very well imagined. And so she did her research, and I loved it because it can be a little bit like cheesy or icky when authors from different countries try and write Australian fiction, but I liked that she kept it in Canada as well, so it just had this sense of realism still to it. I'll read you the little tagline because this will hook you in if what I have said doesn't. It said, "I hope you don't find him, and if you do, I hope he's dead and that he's suffered." That's kind of the whole tagline of the book. This is what all domestic thriller authors wish they could frickin' do. Laura Ann White is a master at scandal and psychological warfare between couples. Like, I fucking loved this book, and no one talks about this one. I'm not saying it's a perfect novel, but you will eat it up, and there's great twists, and there's things that will happen. All of these thrillers, you know what they're like. The best ones have a good twist. And this one definitely did, and it caught me off guard, and I thought it was genius, and you can piece it together. It's one of those great ones where you go, oh my God, I subconsciously, I knew that was happening, but my eyes and my brain didn't let me confirm it. You know what I mean? Like, anyway, but it's also got that police procedural element. So you've got the investigation, which is really satisfying, as well as they're piecing it together with you. And there's just this real tension the whole novel. Like, it's palpable. And I remember even the setting, it's definitely like a character of itself, the Australian setting. It especially with the heat, and yeah, you'll get it if you read it. It adds an extra level of stress to the events that are happening. There's a feeling of being watched. Ellie, especially, her story, that feeling of being watched through windows and looking over your shoulder. Oh, it's so good. It's one of the best thrillers I've read for a long time. So another one to add to your TBR. A little juicy horror novel for you, about 250 pages, smash it out. This has grown in popularity. I read this about 2 or 3 years ago and hadn't really heard anybody speak about it or any reviews. And that is Intercepts by TJ Payne. This is a 5-star horror book for me because it's got everything you want. It's spooky, it's gory, it's complicated. You've got great relationships between father and daughter, teenage daughter. I always like those in novels, especially when the dad's actually trying, like he's not a dropkick. Do you know what I mean? It was a self-published novel, I believe, and now it's been traditionally published, and there's new editions of the book, and I even saw some when I was in New York, and I thought it's so exciting when it was a book that you knew, and you're like, I read it before I saw anyone read it. And I'm not going to go too far into the plot of this. The less you know, the better, if you've managed to avoid it. All you need to know is Joe, our main character, he is the facilities supervisor at a top secret, I'm talking top secret, human experimentation site. And then one day, something follows him home. Oh, so creepy. It's so creepy. And with Joe, I was expecting not to really like him as a character given what his job is, but you do find yourself really rooting for him, especially as within a matter of a day or two, his whole life is kind of turned upside down and he's grappling with a lot of shit. I liked the relationship between him and his teenage daughter, Riley. That was really realistic, I thought. It added some higher stakes, especially for Joe, because of his daughter. I don't want to spoil too much for you though. And so briefly, with the best kind of horror, the setting itself is like a character. And so the experimentation site that he's the supervisor for is so perfectly visualized and described by TJ Payne. He really knew what he wanted from this novel. I love it when authors actually know what they're trying to do and they have no doubt in their mind of what something should deliver or ignite or bring out in their readers, and for me it worked. Like, there's a lot of gore, so if you don't like that, you mightn't like it. There's especially the finale of this book, the climax of the whole novel, it just explodes. You go, how the fuck did we get here? But it is still a natural progression. So it's one of those great novels where you're suddenly like, holy shit, yeah, you can see how this could happen. Oh my God, I wish I could spoil it, but I'm not going to. I just remember feeling so satisfied with how it all came together in the end. The writing style, the plot, all of it. Characters were great. And it's quite dark is the word of the day. Still dark, obviously, if it's a human experimentation site, top secret, and I was also like, this shit would actually happen. It probably is happening. And so, I don't know, I was picturing that when I was reading it, and that made it all the more disturbing. Like, this is very eerie and disturbing and nasty. Also some genuine spooky moments in it where I was like,
I think I'm gonna close the blinds. I don't want anyone peeping in.
That's how I felt at moments reading this book. So yeah, and again, smash it out. I read this in a 24-hour readathon a few years ago with my husband, and it was perfect for that. I read it in like 3 hours flat, smashed it out, and I wish I could freaking devour it again. It was so good. Next one is Rewind by Catherine Ryan Howard. I read this back in 2019 when it was first released, something like that, and I haven't reread it. So good luck to me while I recommend it. All I know is that I remember having a kind of stalker element to it and social media playing quite a part in it, and that I still find very unnerving and really gives me the heebie-jeebies. So that's why I remember liking this book. Because I haven't read it for a while, I'm going to read the synopsis for you. Andrew, the manager of Shanamore Holiday Cottages, watches his only guest via a hidden camera in her room. One night, the unthinkable happens. A shadow figure emerges on screen, kills her, and destroys the camera. But who is the murderer? How did they know about the camera? And how will Andrew live with himself? Natalie wishes she'd stayed at home as soon as she arrives in the wintry isolation of Shanamore. There's something creepy about the manager. She wants to leave, but she can't. Not until she's found out what she's looking for. This is an explosive story about a murder caught on camera. You've already missed the start. To get the full picture, you must rewind the tape and play it through to the end, no matter how shocking. Oh my God. I want to reread this. How good does that sound? It's literally, let me see. It's only like 330 pages, 340 pages. It's fast paced, the short chapters. I also like that it's all, each chapter instead of numbers, it's got like rewind, or it'll have pause or play or fast forward. It just hooks you in, and it's just a little bit, it's a bit gimmicky in a good way though. It's made it different and it stands out still to me. Catherine Ryan Howard's writing, so great. Her setting, I think it's Ireland. She's an Irish author. Off the top of my head, forgive me if I'm wrong because it has been a little while since I've read it. But I remember it's so cold, and the isolation in this novel really got to me. And just that creepiness of the thought of being in a little cottage, getting away, escaping your life to figure yourself out, and the weirdo manager watching you in a hidden camera and you don't know. She can feel the eyes on her, like you know it, and then he catches her murder. But so much of it, again, I'm not going to spoil, but so much of it too is like he doesn't want to be found out that he was watching this woman, you know. We're trying to figure out her past as well. There was a lot of stuff going on of what also brought her there and what she is trying to figure out. What is it that she can't leave, like she has to find? And then you've got the detective stuff, obviously after her murder, all of that. There's so much at play here, so many interconnecting storylines, and how it all weaved together at the end is very satisfying, and you'll have a really great time. But I highly recommend that, especially if you're looking for something that you may not be seeing around on social media at the moment. This one still stands out as a very high contender to get me out of a reading slump. Another more recent read that I had is The Stepford Wives by Ira Levin. I hope that's how I say his name. This is 130 pages, tiny little book. It packs one hell of a punch. The Stepford Wives obviously isn't a new story. Many of you might know it, especially if you read horror or you've seen movies. You know, there's a couple of movies out there. This is following Joanna, her husband, and their 2 kids as they move to a beautiful, idyllic Connecticut suburb of Stepford. And when they first get there, it's like all is just perfect. You know, all the people are beautiful, literally beautiful and perfect, and they greet them with warmness and kindness, and they embrace them as part of the community. But under the surface, Joanna's starting to figure out that things aren't as they seem. Things are quite sordid. Something's really wrong, and it has a connection to the local men's association that she's trying to figure out. That's all I'm going to tell you if you haven't read this. That was all I knew. I cannot tell you how easy this book went in. I haven't forgotten it. I think this is one of the most perfect little psychological horror books I've ever read, probably in the whole genre. It is psychological horror through and through. And this was released in 1972, written by a man. This could have been released in 2026 by a woman. You know, I'm not saying anything against male authors, of course, they're some of my favorites. But I hope that conveys sort of the depth to it, and also just how realistic and natural he wrote these women, and the friendships, and also just like the string of feminism through it, and what women have had to go through, and what men often do to women, and how they psychologically abuse women. Yeah, it was really beautifully done. It's satire still. There's a lot of satirical elements to this novel for sure, but he's not satirizing and making fun of women and their plight, if you know what I mean. That's a hard thing to balance, and I think he did it expertly. And I freaking love this book. 130 pages. You can read it in an hour and a half, probably 2 hours, and you will feel so good. And it's quite an ambiguous ending, maybe. I think it was quite plain what was happening, but I also enjoyed that it doesn't spoon feed everything. He lets us fill some blanks. That makes it sometimes quite a bit eerier and more disturbing when you don't get the answers written in black and white. But you know, like, you figure it out. All the answers are spattered throughout the novel. They're all in there. It's so clever. Even just the last chapter, it's like, oh, perfection. Loved this book. Another thriller that's on Kindle Unlimited is The Murder After the Night Before by Katie Brent. I needed something a little bit different, exactly what I needed at that time when nothing else was going in. Incredibly easy to read. You're not going to struggle at all with this. And it also was fun. There was a lot of humor and wittiness in this book. Katie Brent's writing style, is very, very humorous when it's not a humorous situation. So this is about a woman. She wakes up one morning with the hangover from hell, basically. There's a strange dude in her bed that she can't remember. And her best friend, Posey, is dead. And the police are thinking this is just a tragic accident, you know, but she knows her best friend, and she knows this was murder. And so she freaking went viral the night before when she was pissed as a newt. And she went viral for really bad reasons and things that she wants to outrun, but she literally can't. Oh, you're going to have so much anxiety reading this book, especially in this modern time with people in their phones and they're freaking filming everybody in public. This is the worst nightmare, basically. The worst, anxiety anybody could ever experience in their whole life. And it's perfectly encapsulated by Katie Brent in this novel, all with the backdrop of this devastating murder of her best friend, her roommate. So that's the plot, and it's addictive. You know, and like I said, the anxiety I felt reading this book, not that I've ever gotten caught out doing any of the shit that this character did, but it's so, you can really sympathize with her, you know, and then you've also just got that mystery at the heart of it, a little bit of a police thing. They're not a huge factor in it. Most of it is in first person, and so you are following through the eyes, but yeah, I just thought it was a really fun one. It's a little bit on the lighter side as a thriller, you know what I mean? And on Kindle Unlimited, so it's great if you need to smash something out fast. Reading on the Kindle is the best if you've got one. But I still recommend it even physically if you need to grab a copy. It is worth it. A little bit more humorous, a little bit of a lighter take on a thriller with still a really interesting mystery that's really close to home, like literally within the same four walls of each other. So yes, thoroughly enjoyed that one. I can tell that I recommend these books because I'll go to grab my physical copy and it's not there, and I remember I've lent it to somebody. So the next one, a little bit more of a popular novel, is The Turn of the Key by Ruth Ware. What can I say? 5 stars. Frickin' love this book. And I'll always recommend it to people obviously in my real life as well as here with you guys. It's just one of those books, you know, and it's one that is worth believing the hype, but try not to watch any reviews, although please stay. Don't leave me. Watch my review. I won't tell you much. Rowan, our female main character, comes across an advert for a live-in nanny position. She's desperate. She needs the work, you know. And so she applies for the job. She gets it. It's in like the Scottish Highlands. It's a beautiful setting. I remember it just being at the forefront of this novel for me, and that half hooked me in. Anyway, as you can tell, I'm a sucker for a good setting that becomes kind of like a character. Her job's got a really good salary, but what she doesn't know is she is stepping into a nightmare, and it's a nightmare that will end up with her waiting in a jail cell, awaiting trial for murder. But she's not guilty, at least not of murder. So if she's not, someone else is, kind of thing. It's just felt like a really masterful way of doing a modern haunted house novel, and it had homages to the classic Turn of the Screw. Obviously the name, she's not hiding that. It's kind of a modernized version of it in many ways for me. The grounds of this place she works on, it really transports you there, but it also provides that isolation that we love in these sorts of thrillers. And what I remember setting me on edge was kind of the juxtaposition between the high-tech modern household that she is living and working in against the backdrop of this Scottish countryside, this beautiful setting of land. What makes this such an easy book to read and that will get you out of a slump is that it's straight into the action, pretty much. It's also written all from Rowan's point of view. She's writing letters from her jail cell. And so it's a really unique way of spinning it and doing it to get you hooked in. Just short chapters, so it means you'll just fly through it, you know? You're gonna wanna know what happens because it just leaves you on little cliffhangers and it's addictive and easy to read. Ruth Ware's writing's just so good. I've read others of hers since, and she never lets me down. That's what I'll say about Ruth. It can be any of her novels. It doesn't have to be Turn of the Key. This is just one of the best, in my opinion, of hers. And I remember I audibly made like noises at some pivotal moments when there were reveals and twists within this book. She wove them in so perfectly, and I don't get stumped very often, and this one got me, and it was so fun. I love feeling like, yeah, a book has tricked me, and this one definitely did, and I freaking loved it. And it's one of those books you'll wish you could start again and not remember, you know what I mean? Last one for this little recommendation video is The Other People by C.B. Everett. This is like a horror thriller. It's kind of got it all. Another one similar to Strange Pictures by Yuketsu, where I physically couldn't put it down. I loved it. I freaking loved it. No one talks about this. Again, a 5-star book for me, but maybe not for everyone. I don't think this will be for everyone. I'm going to preface this by saying that. All it is, 10 strangers, an old dark house, a killer picking them off one by one, and a missing girl who's running out of time. 10 strangers wake up trapped inside a locked house. They have no recollection of how they got there, and in order to escape, they have to solve the disappearance of a young woman, but a killer also stalks the empty corridors, and soon the body count starts to rise. Who are these strangers? Why are they chosen? Why would someone want to kill them? And who or what is the beast in the cellar? Forget what you think you know, because while you can trust yourself, can you really trust the other people? Oh, you should be hooked. If you're not hooked, something's wrong with you, baby. And another really short one, 280 pages, 300 pages. The writing is like font super big. Yeah, short chapters. I loved The Beast in the Cellar chapters specifically. You don't know what this beast is, but there was so much commentary, and it also makes you feel seen as the reader. Like, it's kind of spooky and seeping into your thoughts and narrating kind of the stuff that is going on within our 10 characters and seeing if you're picking up on stuff, but it still doesn't give anything away. It's very clever. There's a lot of darkness, a lot of grittiness, a lot of murder, and it also feels like a classic locked room mystery, but with a twist, literally. I just ate it up. I think if you like something that is going to make your mind play tricks on you, you're going to love this. If you love locked room mysteries, but in a horror way, not a crime or thriller way, you're going to love it. All the people that do die, not kind of trying to spoil it, but you know how they get picked off one by one? They all die in a way that is very relevant to the worst part of their personality or something they've done in their past. So it's very violent, disgusting. There are some disturbing people out of those 10 characters. Clock's ticking. They're trying to figure it out. They've got like 12 hours to figure out what is going on with this missing girl that they can't find, that they don't know. They don't know why they're even in this building. They don't know each other, and they're getting picked off one by one, and they have no fucking clue why. So there's a lot at play. The stakes are high in this novel, but it's so easy to read. There's a lot of humor. It's super witty and sarcastic, and a great sucker punch of an ending that you will not see coming. I love it. So those are my top 10 horror thriller recommendations to get you out of a reading slump. Or if you just need to tick off a few more books for your personal reading challenge this month or this year, I do highly recommend these. They're all dark, they're all twisted, but they're all super fun as well. I loved each of them. Like I said, they were all rated above 4 stars, some of them up to 5. So yeah, I would love to know if you've read any of these or if you've got any recommendations for me for books to get me out of a slump when I am in one. I would love them. I always love recommending new books and I love to chat about them. So if you enjoyed this video, I'd love if you stuck around. Feel free to subscribe, like, comment, whatever you would like. Any support is very appreciated. And like I always say, if you got to the end, then we are best friends. You're my best friend, I'm your best friend, and so you have to stay now, forever. And I will see you in my next video. Bye!